Hello everyone. How is everyone doing today? So today I've got an appointment at 3 to go visit with my pastor, share the two prophetic dreams that I previously had and see what we both think about it, because I want his opinion. But before I even went, as I was in the shower, I asked God, I said, please be my mouthpiece. I told him that if I go to speak something that's not in alignment with what he wants me to speak, that he cut my tongue and my lips off, because I do not want to be a deceiver. I do not want to operate in my own authority, but in the authority of God, who has given me his authority to do so. So the reason why I was here is because I was actually sharing these dreams with one of my family members. And out of nowhere, I started thinking back a little bit, because in 2020, when COVID was going crazy, I had a dream. And in this dream, we were all in a flat. And I think I've actually made a video about that dream. And as we were going outside, I seen the flaming chariot flying over, and it landed on this mountain that had this ginormous tree. Everybody was talking about the same thing. Everybody was heading in the same direction. And as I was reflecting on even that dream, I remember, since I've lived at this address, I've been here for, it'll be 3 years, this coming up May. And I remember a couple of dreams, not just one. I want to say there was at least a total of 3 dreams that I had where, for some reason, I was holding somebody's baby. It was not my baby. I think that maybe in my dreams, every single time it was my daughter's baby, even though this child does not exist. My daughter does have 3 small daughters that are, one's going to be 2 years old in February, and then the other one just turned 3 in November. So it wasn't them. This was little infants. And in both of these dreams, I was moving hastily. I was moving about very quickly. And at one point, I must have been living in an apartment up on a high floor, because as I peered through the blinds, there was so much chaos going outside and destruction. There were monsters that were coming up out of the water. And I feel like I was almost living in New York, because the bay, it wasn't like a tropical place. It was like a city. And it was almost as if these creatures came out of the water, and they were every bit as big as the Statue of Liberty. I mean, they were huge, and they were destroying everything. And I remember, as I looked out the blind to see, I seen this Jeep full. It was like a Jeep type of vehicle full of young people. And as they were driving, one of those monsters hurled a light post. It pulled it out of the ground and hurled it at them, and it went through the windshield and impaled the driver. And it was terrible. And I was just thinking, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And I knew in my heart, I know this sounds crazy, but my mother, I hate to jump around, but when I was pregnant, my mother always said, if you're in labor, get your butt in the shower. Don't take a bath, but take a shower and be clean, because you don't want to go to the hospital dirty. So in this dream, I was thinking, it's going to be a long time before I can get a shower. And I remember, as I was throwing things into this diaper bag, I thought, I better hurry up and take a shower, because I don't know who would take a shower in a moment like that. But I was thinking, I'm not going to get one for a while, because we have to flee. And I remember my daughter being in the shower, and I thought, well, I'm just going to have to get in there with her, as I was throwing stuff in this diaper bag. And everything I was throwing in this bag was for the baby that I was obviously packing this bag up for, because I don't remember seeing the baby, but I knew I was packing everything for the baby. I didn't throw anything in there for myself, my daughter, because she was in the dream. That's why I assume it's her baby. So moving from that dream, I had another dream where we were all so in haste, and I was throwing stuff and getting things ready for a quick move. And there was also a baby in that dream. And in that dream, I was holding the baby. And there was chaos. There was so much energy, high stress energy going on, that I was all over the place and in panic. I was not in the worst panic. I had it a little bit together, but I remember that we need to get going quickly And I knew that something bad was getting ready to happen. Like the other dream, I seen the monsters. I seen the tragedy that was unfolding outside of the door, the window actually. But this other dream, I didn't see it, but I knew it was coming. And I'm not making these videos to put fear in your heart, because that's not what this is about. I'm putting these videos out here so that you could know that we do need to be ready. I mean, I might be dead before it happens. It might happen tonight, tomorrow, right now. I mean, we don't know the hour of the return of Jesus. But I do know that it is coming eventually. And there's a lot of things that's been lining up with prophecy that's happening right now. So obviously, some of the things of the Bible is coming true right now as we speak, including the stuff that's going on with Venezuela and, President Trump. This is not a political video, and it's not about Trump. But what I'm saying is that even the stuff that's going on right now is part of biblical prophecy. The Euphrates River drying up. I mean, there's so many things that I can't even count that's going on. And again, I was told by a guy in LA when I was out there. He approached me and he said, I need to give you a message. And I thought he was just trying to solicitate money, and I didn't have any money. I was struggling out in LA. I loved it, but I was struggling. And I just cut him off. I said, hey, I don't have anything to give you. And he said, no, God told me to give you a message. He wants you to know that he does for you. People don't do for you, but he does for you. And he said something about me living to be 80 and, my 80s or whatever. And so I could say to myself, okay, Kim, you've got some years before you're 80. You've got time. You can sit back and chill. But what if that man was sitting in my life to deceive me? Because not just because someone has a word for you doesn't mean it's a true word. Just like these dreams that I'm getting ready to give to my pastor. I pray that I speak clearly. I pray that my words are the Lord's words, God's words. But I could easily be giving him a message to deceive him in the church. Easily. This man could be deceiving me, because him saying that only God does for you sounds pretty good and tasteful in the lips, that the Father's going to take care of you. But then that would discount all the blessings when God sends people into your life to bless you. Like recently, I had a gentleman that blessed me when my car was in the shop because it had to have a tie rod replaced and something else that was definitely needing to be fixed. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been able to do anything but just have my tire replaced. And I would have been driving this car, and it may have, the tie rod could have snapped out and I would have been screwed. So I know that maybe by that man saying that nobody does for you, but God does for you, that could be true. And it could be a meaning that God does for me through other people. But I just can't take that fruit that man gave me and eat it. Because honestly, I don't want to die when I'm 80. I would love to live to be 127 years old. And I'm declaring that in the name of Jesus. I will be an old lady, but I want to be able to still speak about Jesus, walk like Jesus, be the hands and feet of Christ until the end of my days. I do not want to be a man down. I want to be able to physically move in the direction that the Lord wants me to, all the way up until my last moment of life. Matter of fact, I want to be talking about Jesus and fall over dead. And if the Lord came and I ended up having to stay here for whatever reason, and whatever happens to me, I don't care, because I know where I'm going. Is it scary? Yeah. If I was being tied up and held down and someone was coming at me with a sword, yeah, I'd be scared. But I would pray for peace even in that moment. But the reason why I'm giving these messages is because there might be an urgency of today, not 30 years from now. And again, I do not want to be caught without my oil for my lamps. I don't want to be holding my talents, burying them, not using them, because even though I know where I'm going, I know who I belong to, I know where my home is, I know this earth is not my home, I am a foreigner in a foreign land. Even though those things are true, I do not want to leave this earth until the Lord empties me of everything that he has me to give of God to others, if that makes any sense. And I need to honestly write down every single prophetic thing that's went on in my life when I didn't know the prophetic. I didn't realize what that was until the Lord showed me, slowed my life down in 2017 and replayed it to me. And he showed me that, hey, all those things, that was me. And when I look through when I take myself into the perspective of Christ, when I move myself out of the world and into the heavens, and I see the world through the Lord's eyes, I see that I have lived a very supernatural life. And it deserves to be written down and given to you guys. Even all the hell that I went through, which I do plan on start doing those videos, because I need you guys to see that just because I carry myself as if I've never had a rough day in my life, or very few, I have been through hell. I've lived it. I've lived hell on earth. The devil's been after me since the day my mother first conceived. When my birth father chased her down a flight of stairs, she could have easily fell down those stairs. She could have fell and killed me. I mean, easily. I could have died. And at 7, when my appendix ruptured in church, that was the attack of the enemy. And I shouldn't even be here. I've had peritonitis twice. Once with the appendix, and then once with my gallbladder. And if you don't know what peritonitis is, it is a very bad, it's almost like septic. You go septic. The infection is in your bloodstream. And I shouldn't be here right now. But by the grace of God, I am. I have been in multiple wrecks where I should not be here. I've been in relationships that were so abusive that one time my son's father beat my face off of the pavement, off of a road, a country road, until my face, I looked like Quasimodo. I had a clear concussion, and instead of him taking me to the hospital, he took me to his friends and hid me out for 3 days. And my friend, who's no longer with us, kept me awake. She kept giving me coffee and trying to keep me awake because she's afraid if I fell asleep that I would not wake up again. I have been kicked. I was kicked in the stomach when I was pregnant with my first son. I was beat up in front of a biker gang at that moment. I have been, verbal abuse, mental abuse. I should be strung out on drugs. I should be crazy right now. But somehow I went through the fire and came out not even smelling like smoke. Why? Because Jesus was with me through all that. Jesus was with me every single time. And he showed me that. And I cannot just dive into all that information. I can't. But I'm telling you, I do have a prophetic anointing on my life. And it's not to put the spotlight on me. Heck no. It's to put the spotlight on Jesus. Because through me, I am a walking billboard for Jesus Christ. I am a living, breathing testimony. And I've never gotten to give my testimony. I wrote an essay when I was in college back in my early 30s. I went to college and I had an English class and we had to write an essay about something that happened to us or our life or a story or whatever. And when I got done with that and turned it in, I got called to the office to speak to my instructor, my teacher, and she was like, had that, the essay in front of her. And she's like, this is amazing. This is really, you live this life? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, oh my goodness, you need to write a memoir. You need to write this down. And I brushed it off. And I didn't think that my life was that significant. I thought that my life was probably like most people's lives. But now that I'm older, I see that it was quite different. But out of the 7 kids that my mother had, I got the most abuse. And I'm definitely not trying to brag about that and act like I'm significant, because my stepbrother Joey got abused. But the only reason why he got abused is because my stepfather was trying to appease my mother after he beat me down. He felt like he had to do Joey too, because I was the step kid, he was a step kid. And then my sister Jackie, who has passed away, who, if she was alive, her testimony would be amazing, because I don't know how she even endured all the things that she endured. But she's with Jesus now. And I know that she's with Jesus because we talked about it before she passed. I know that's where she's at. She's with Jesus. But she didn't get as much as me because she tried to avoid drama. She tried to stay in the shadows. And of course, my other sister that was with my dad, my stepfather raised her from 4 months old. So it was as if she was his kid. So her and my other sister and my other two brothers with my stepfather, they were favored in that household. Great favor on them. I don't never remember my dad taking a belt to any of them. I don't remember them even getting a spanking. I don't. And so I know that that my stepfather was an assignment to take me out too, or to break me down. And then after that, I was meeting, even my ex-husband, I was meeting men and having these relationships where their assignment was to destroy me. The devil has sent many, many, many adversaries into my life, and I shouldn't be here. And if I am here, I should be on drugs, alcohol. I should be either in prison or something, because I keep bringing up this movie called The Burning Bed. Farrah Fawcett played in it. It's an old movie. But if you ever find that movie, watch it. Watch it. And just have a thought that my life, my experience with my abuse far succeeded hers in that movie. And it's called The Burning Bed for a reason, because her abuser was in that bed. And the things that she went through, I thought, wow, that's horrible, but man, how did I survive? How did I not be that person? You know, like I said, 6 months pregnant, being beat up by your husband in front of a biker gang and being kicked in the stomach for no reason because you make a bed up and don't react to the pair of women's underwear that he hid in the bed for you to find to cause drama in front of a bunch of people. And just because you don't respond, he beats you up in front of them and they watch. They don't even help. You get your face beat off the pavement by another relationship. I've had to box a man in a yard at nighttime in Aberdeen, Ohio. I was in an abusive relationship. And people say, well, if someone put their hands on me, I would walk away. But you know what my dad used to say? He said, abusive person does not give you the abuse all in one dose. He gives you one bite at a time. He feeds you that one bite at a time. Before you know it, you've eaten the whole thing. When you've been raised and abused and it becomes your daily life and you're used to it, you see your mother be abused. You see your siblings be abused. You're abused. You get married at a very young age to escape that abuse and jump into worse abuse where you're kicked in the stomach. You're left in a house in the dead of winter with a newborn where you have 7 or 8 blankets on top of you to keep warm. And the only thing you have is a wood burning stove where your husband has left you no wood, no way of even lighting the wood. If you don't even have a match to light the wood. And he's gone all night and leaves you and the newborn in a house. And your mother-in-law shows up with food stamps that your mother mailed you to her P.O. box because you don't have a solid place to live. And instead of her giving you your food stamps, she comes looking for her son. And when she doesn't find him, she leaves with the food stamps. And then when she finds him, she gives them to him, the very person who is going to take the food stamps and spend it on something else other than the food that you need for you and your baby. That happened. That happened. I remember my ex-husband pulling on the side of a road and beating me up because my sister and her husband, who was also abusive, was in the back seat fighting her. And so he felt that he wanted to beat me up. I hadn't done nothing wrong. So he pulls on the side of the road, drags me by the hair of the head, beats me up in the ditch. The stories I can tell. I was even on the Sally Jesse Raphael show in another relationship. I've been in a lot of relationships. And I've tried to make them work, all of them. And that relationship was the most toxic one ever. And that was the one who beat my face off the pavement. That gentleman. And that, I don't even know how I survived that abuse, because it was worse than my ex-husband. It was demonic. I mean, very demonic. If you can imagine being dead asleep, and I know I probably jumped around, and you're like, wait a minute, you didn't even finish that story. You jumped on another one. I have ADD, ADHD, whatever you want to call it. But I remember being asleep after that man left me for another woman and came back in the middle of the night while I was asleep. And he smacked me so hard on my bum that it left a raised handprint about that thick. And it knocked the breath out of me. And I was crawling down the hallway as his sister exited the room to defend me. And why did he hit me? Because I moved her in. She had no place to go. And just because she was there, he decided that he was going to hit me because he thought I was doing something wrong when he left me for the Kirby cleaning lady. Yeah. But like I said, I've been abused my whole life. So that was normal to me to endure that, because I see my mother go through it. Who am I to have a better life than she? I call that shopping hungry. I did that my whole life. My mother taught me how to shop hungry, and I lived most of my life shopping hungry until I was in my 30s. And I want to say it was my late 30s before I actually walked away from the physical abuse. Because even though I wasn't in a physical abuse relationship very long in the early 2000s, I was with a Hispanic man who did one time hit me. And I took a bicycle and threw it at him. You talk about drama. If I was to just be able to have a videotape of my life and you guys watched it, it would not only be terrifying, sad, it would be funny. Because here this little woman is having to physically fight men. I've been knocked out, lost my memory. I mean, you name it, it has happened to me. Sorry, guys, I'm getting a phone call. Everything has happened to me. But I just wanted to jump on here because slowly but surely I'm going to show you who I am, because I'm not a person who's had a soft cushion life, been treated special, the white picket fence, the beautiful family, we all sit at the dinner table. No, quite the opposite. And for me to sit here in front of you today and have the strength I have and the courage I have and the way I carry myself, you would never know that I'd ever endured anything, but I have. And over time, I'm going to show you who I am so you have an understanding of who Jesus is in my life. Okay, guys, I'm going to close this out. I just want to give that quick message. I love you, and I hope you have a blessed day.